Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a file that is, well, it's a little deceptive.
It really is.
On the surface, it looks like a history lesson about a 16th century monk in India. But then you start reading the source materials.
And you realize you're looking at a blueprint for a total psychological, even spiritual reconstruction.
Totally.
It's one of those stacks of research where, you go in expecting dates and some dry philosophy, and you come out questioning your entire existence.
Seriously. We are looking at a conversation that scholars say is the bedrock of Vaishnava philosophy. But this isn't some lecture hall debate. This is a story. It's about a guy who had everything: money, power, status, and just realized he was completely, deeply miserable.
Right. And that's the hook for me. We aren't talking about someone who was born in a monastery or, grew up in a cave somewhere.
No.
The main character here, Sanatana Goswami, was the prime minister for the Nawab Hussain Shah in Bengal.
Let's just pause on that for a second because the sources really emphasize this. Prime minister is not a small job.
Not at all.
This wasn't some mid-level bureaucrat.
No, he was effectively the CEO of the government. He had massive wealth, he had the ear of the king, he was a brilliant scholar in Persian and Arabic.
So by any metric of success.
Any metric. In the 1500s, or frankly in the 2020s, he had made it.
He was the guy you'd look at and just say, he won.
He won the game.
Which makes what he does next so fascinating.
Yeah.
The text describes this intense midlife crisis. He doesn't just retire, he basically escapes. It's like a thriller plot.
It really is. He's bribing jail keepers, he's crossing borders in the middle of the night, giving away all his wealth.
And when he finally tracks down the spiritual teacher he's been looking for, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he doesn't just walk up and shake his hand.
No, it's a complete inversion of his status. The source material says Sanatana approaches Chaitanya with a piece of straw in his mouth.
I had to look that up. That was an ancient sign of surrender.
Exactly. It means I am as humble as the straw. I have no value. And the dialogue that follows, which took place over 4 months in Varanasi, it starts with Sanatana saying something just shocking.
What's that?
He says, "People in the capital call me wise. They call me a genius administrator. But I don't even know who I am."
That line hit me so hard, Kayami. Who am I? It sounds like a cliche, a philosophical starter question.
Yeah.
But when you strip away your job title, your bank account, your social standing, it's a terrifying question.
It is.
If you aren't the prime minister, then who are you?
It is the ultimate question. And Sanatana didn't stop there. He asks 3 core questions that really, they frame our entire deep dive today.
Okay.
First, who am I? Second, why am I suffering? And third, what is the ultimate good for me?
That second one, why am I suffering? That's the one that feels so urgent.
It is.
In the text, he specifically asks, why do the 3 types of miseries burn me? Tapatraya. Such a raw admission.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's response is fascinating because he doesn't offer some platitude.
Right, he doesn't say, don't worry, it'll get better.
Or just think positive thoughts. No. He validates the suffering. He says, yes, you are suffering, and here's exactly how the mechanics of that suffering work.
Okay, so let's break this down. The sources organize this massive download of philosophy into, 3 categories, or takvas.
That's right?
We've got the identity, the process, and the goal.
Yeah.
So let's start with identity. Sambandha Tattva.
So Sanatana asks, who am I? And Chaitanya gives a definition that is almost mathematically precise. He says the living entity, the jiva, is Krishnara Nityadasa,
Which means?
the eternal servant of Krishna.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. To a modern ear, that word servant, it lands poorly.
I get that. Yeah.
We value independence, autonomy. Servant sounds like hierarchy, oppression, lack of agency.
It sounds like being an employee forever. I understand completely. It triggers that resistance. But the source material gives us an analogy to explain what servant means in this ontological sense.
Okay.
It's the sun and the sunbeam.
I loved this visual. Walk us through it because it changes the context completely.
So, imagine the sun. It's massive, it's the source of all heat and all light. Now imagine a single sunbeam coming through your window.
Right.
Qualitatively, they are identical. They're both made of the same stuff: photons, light, heat.
You can't have a sunbeam that isn't light. You can't separate the quality.
Exactly. So the source argues that we are qualitatively one with the divine. We share that same nature, eternity, knowledge, bliss. But
There's a but.
there's a but. We differ in quantity. The sun is infinite. The sunbeam is a tiny, tiny atomic spark.
So we are the sunbeam.
We are the sunbeam. And here's where the servant part clicks into place. A sunbeam has no real existence independent of the sun. Its whole purpose, its whole joy, if you will, is to radiate from that source. If you somehow cut a sunbeam off from the sun,
It's gone.
it fades out, it goes dark.
So the argument is that our suffering comes from a kind of identity crisis. We are sunbeams trying to be the sun.
Precisely. The source says we are trying to play the role of the master, or the king, but our very DNA is wireframed for connection and service to the whole.
It's like trying to walk on your hands.
That's a great way to put it. You can do it for a while, you might even get good at it, but it's going to hurt because it's not your natural position.
And that hurt. That's what leads to Sanatana's second question, the miseries. The text gets very specific about this pain we experience when we disconnect. They call it the Tapatraya, the threefold miseries.
And this is where the philosophy gets very clinical. It classifies all human suffering into 3 buckets. And the claim is that every problem you have ever had fits into one of these.
Let's run through them, because I think everyone listening will identify with at least one of these right now. The first is Atyatmika.
Atyatmika is suffering that arises from your own body and your own mind.
So the obvious stuff, back pain, fever, migraines, just getting older.
Yes, the biological breakdown. But it also includes the mind. Anxiety, depression, the grief of losing someone you love, the envy you feel. The source implies that just having a biological body guarantees this type of suffering. It's built into the hardware.
Okay, so bucket number 2, Atidevika.
This is suffering caused by higher powers or by nature. In the 16th century, they talked about lightning strikes or extreme heat.
Today we might call it acts of God, or, I don't know, geopolitical events.
Exactly.
Like a hurricane hitting your house, or the economy crashing because of a war halfway around the world. Things you have absolutely zero control over.
Zero. You can be the perfect person, eat right, exercise, be kind, and Adidavika, misery can still wipe you out. It's the environment turning on you.
And the third one, which I think this is my personal favorite because it's just so relatable, Adibodhika.
Adibodhika, yes. Misery caused by other living entities.
Other living entities. That is such a polite way of saying people who drive you crazy.
It is, isn't it? But the source is so thorough, it includes everything from a mosquito biting you, to a tiger attacking you, to your boss shouting at you, to a country invading another country. If it's alive and it hurts you, it's Adibodhika.
It's strangely validating to see insects listed right next to political enemies.
It covers the whole spectrum, from minor annoyance to, well, lethality. It really does.
Sanatana's question is why? Why is the world designed this way? Why are we getting hit from all 3 sides? If God is good, why is the world a torture chamber?
And this is where that matrix moment happens in the conversation. The source introduces the concept of Maya, or illusion.
Right.
Chaitanya explains that when the soul, the sunbeam, wants to forget the sun and be independent, it enters this state of Maya. And Maya isn't just a fog. She's described as a corrective force.
There was a great analogy in the reading about a reform school or a prison.
Yes. We often think of suffering as just pointless cruelty, but the source argues that Maya acts like a very harsh teacher. The 3 miseries are the stick. They are designed to make the false position of being the master so uncomfortable that you eventually just give up.
So the suffering is a feature, not a bug. It's the wake-up call.
Exactly. If the material world were perfectly comfortable, we would never question our reality. We would just stay here forever playing king.
That makes sense.
Sanatana Goswami only approached Chaitanya because he felt the heat of those miseries. The pain pushed him to seek a cure.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis, Sambandha. We are eternal sparks of the divine, we're disconnected, and the world is kicking our shins to remind us to reconnect.
That's a good way of putting it.
Now we move to section 2, Abheya Tattva, the solution.
The process.
Right. Chaitanya doesn't just leave Sanatana with a diagnosis. He prescribes a method to get out of the prison. And the word he uses is bhakti.
Devotion. But we have to be really careful with that word because in English, devotion can sound like a mood.
Like, I feel really devoted today.
Yeah, it sounds passive, like you're just writing poetry or having a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Right.
But the source describes bhakti as a technology. It's a very active engagement. It actually lists 64 specific items of practice, or sadhana. It's a whole regimen.
64 is a lot to remember. I don't think I can fit 64 new habits into my morning routine.
Yeah, many of us could. But the deep dive notes highlight the big 5, the most potent ones. Chaitanya narrows it down. The big five are 1. Association with like-minded spiritual people, Vaishnava Sangha. 2. Chanting the holy names, Nama Sankirtana. 3. Hearing the philosophy, like Srimad Bhagavatam. 4. Living in a holy place. And 5. Worshipping the deity.
And of those, Chaitanya puts a really heavy emphasis on chanting and hearing.
He does.
There's this beautiful gardening analogy that explains how this works over time.
I love this one because it manages expectations. You know, in our world, we want instant hacks. Do this for 5 minutes and get enlightened.
Right.
But the source says the practice of bhakti is like planting a seed. The seed is given by the teacher. Your job as the practitioner is to become a gardener.
And what's the water in this analogy?
Hearing and chanting. You water the seed every day by listening to the philosophy and chanting the names. And slowly, this little creeper of devotion grows. It climbs out of the soil of the material world and eventually bears fruit.
But, you know, anyone who has garden knows it's not just about watering. You have to pull the weeds.
And that's a crucial part of the analogy. The source talks about weeds that grow right alongside devotion.
Like what?
Things like the desire for prestige, being worshipped by others, diplomacy, or even violence. If you water the seed but you don't pull the weeds just grow faster and choke the plant.
That's such a real insight. You can be doing the spiritual practice, but if you're doing it just to get famous or look holy,
you're just watering weeds. Exactly. This is called anartha-nivritti, cleaning the heart. It's hard work.
This leads to a distinction the text makes between two types of bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga. This feels important because I think a lot of people bounce off religion because of the rules.
Yes. Vaidhi Bhakti is devotion driven by duty. You follow the rules because the scripture says so. Wake up at this time, don't eat that, chant this many times.
It's disciplined, it's structured.
And frankly, it can feel mechanical, like going to the gym when you don't want to. You're doing the reps, but you're hating it. But the source argues that you start there. The goal isn't to stay there, though. The goal is Raganuga spontaneous attachment.
There was a cooking analogy here that just cracked me up.
Yes. The source compares mechanical chanting, just doing it to get it done, to cooking without love.
We've all eaten that meal. The ingredients were technically correct, but it tasted like cardboard.
It gives you calories, but no joy.
Yeah.
But then you eat a meal cooked by your grandmother or someone who deeply loves you. Same ingredients, but it tastes completely different. It has soul.
That's the difference.
That's it. Vaidhi, the rules, is meant to train you, but Raganuga, that spontaneous feeling, is the actual taste. The source argues that God, Krishna, is hungry for the emotion, not just the ritual.
He wants the love, not just the labor.
Exactly. The rules are just the training wheels to help you develop the taste. You kind of fake it till you make it.
So we have the identity, the sunbeam, and the process, the gardening. Now we get to the final stage, the destination, Prayojana Tattva.
This is the pivot point. Because usually when people talk about Eastern philosophy, the goal is liberation, moksha.
Getting off the wheel, ceasing to exist, just peace.
Stopping the pain. And Sanatana Goswami probably expended that answer. How do I stop hurting? Well, stop existing.
But that's not what he gets.
No. Chaitanya says liberation is just the neutral stage. The real goal is Krishna Prema, pure love of God.
So it's not about disappearing into a void, it's about entering a relationship.
A very intense relationship. The source uses the sugar analogy to describe how this love evolves. It's fascinating chemistry.
Walk us through the stages of sugar. I didn't even know sugar had stages until I read this.
So you start with the raw material, sugarcane juice. That's like the initial faith, Shraddha. It's sweet, but it's watery, it's diluted.
Okay.
You boil it down, you refine it, and it becomes molasses or jaggery. It's thicker, stronger. This is like the stage of firm conviction or real taste or ruchi.
And you refine it even further.
It becomes sugar crystals, then rock candy. The point is, at every stage, the substance gets more concentrated and sweeter.
I see.
The source is saying that love isn't a binary switch. It evolves from respect to friendship to attachment and finally to prema, which is the rock candy stage. Concentrated, unbreakable love.
And this isn't some generic, I love everyone kind of vibe. The text gets into the specific flavors of that love, the rasas.
Right. The theology is very personal. It says that just as we have different types of relationships in this world, those exist in their purified form in the ultimate goal. There are 5 primary rasas, or flavors.
That's awesome.
First is Shante. This is a neutral, peaceful appreciation, like a subject looking at a king with awe. You recognize the greatness, but you keep your distance.
Okay.
Respectful.
Second is Dasya, Servitude. This is the active desire to serve the beloved. You actually want to do things to please them.
Third.
Sakya. Friendship. And this is radical because in friendship, you're equals. You can joke with God, play with him, even tease him. The hierarchy dissolves into intimacy. I like that. It makes the divine so much more approachable.
Then there's Vatsalya, parental affection. This is viewing the divine as your child who needs protection.
Wow.
Imagine feeling like you need to take care of God. That's a huge shift in perspective.
And the last one?
Mahuya, conjugal or amorous love. This is considered the highest in this specific philosophy because it includes all the qualities of the others, the service, the friendship, the care, plus the extreme intimacy of a lover.
So the ultimate goal described as Sanatana isn't a white light. It's an eternal, dynamic drama in a place called Goloka Vrindavan, where these relationships play out forever.
Yes. It describes the divine not as a cloud of energy, but as a person, Krishna, with 64 specific qualities. He is artistic, grateful, beautiful, a linguistic expert.
And the counterpart.
Radha is described as having 25 qualities, like being a sweet singer. It's painting a picture of a world that is more tangible than this one, not less.
There's a lot to take in. We've gone from a depressed prime minister in the 1500s asking, "Who am I?" to the concept of eternal romantic love with the divine.
It is a massive journey. But I think the key takeaway, the thing that really grounds it all, is where we started. Humility.
How so?
The source explicitly says that knowledge without application is useless. You can memorize all the rasas and the qualities of sugar, but it means nothing if you don't change. The entire download of philosophy, the sunbeam, the gardening, all of it, only happened because Sanatana Goswami was willing to put a piece of straw in his mouth and say, I don't know.
He had to drop the title to become the student.
Exactly. If he had stayed in his palace, comfortable in his position, believing his own press releases, he never would have asked the question.
Which brings us right back to those three miseries.
It does.
The source suggests that the bad boss, the health scare, the anxiety, those aren't accidents. They are the harsh teacher pushing us to ask the big questions.
It completely reframes suffering. It's not a punishment, it's a prompt. It's the universe knocking on your door saying, hey, this isn't your real home, wake up.
So here is the thought we want to leave you with today. We all have something in our life right now that falls into one of those three categories of misery. It's nagging at you, it hurts.
Right.
Based on this philosophy, that difficulty is a custom-designed lesson. So the question is, if your current struggle is a message from that teacher, what exactly is it trying to tell you to change?
That is the question to meditate on.
Maybe the answer is the first step out of the prison. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Kar Krishna.